Well, the World Health Organization says COVID-19 cases have dropped around the globe for a sixth consecutive week. It says cases fell by 11% in the week leading up to February 21st. And you can see the countries with falling rates on this map in green, if we can just bring that map up. But the WHO says reports of new variants are increasing. And there's mixed news out of Europe. France is seeing more patients in intensive care units, while levels in Spain have dropped below extreme risk for the first time in 2 months. Melissa Bell joined us live from Paris with more on what's happening across Europe. But good to see you, Melissa. So we are seeing COVID cases decline around the world. How is Europe responding to that in terms of restrictions?
Well, it is, just as you said, from the WHO's latest statement about this, the problem of those spread of the variants here in Europe. We have seen the restrictions in place generally begin to stabilize figures. But what's happening now is that because of those pockets of the extremely fast spread of that more contagious variant, the one first identified in the United Kingdom, we are seeing a more regional approach to restrictions, and in some cases restrictions in fact being tightened, so going the other way specifically because of the spread of those new variants. So it is the case here in the French Riviera. For the next 2 weekends there will be a partial local lockdown down there. The city of Dunkirk as well in the very north of France also seeing extremely high infection rates, much higher than the national average, again because of the spread of that variant. It is the case in other European countries as well. Italy has seen Lombardy increase its restrictions. Once again, you'll remember that was the heart of the first wave. It is now, say, local health officials facing its third wave. And again, it is because of the problem of those spread of those variants. And what we've seen is European countries really trying, first of all, to impose more regional tightened restrictions in order to bring them down under control, introducing also travel restrictions. In fact, the European Union is asking several countries to justify their increased travel restrictions beyond what the EU had agreed back in December, because it says some of those restrictions are beginning to get in the way of the free flow of people, but also more specifically of supply chains, and that is extremely worrying to them. We're hearing also that Stockholm, for instance, in Sweden, they're urging citizens there to avoid travelling and to be wearing masks on public transport, again, because the capital has seen over the course of the last week a 27% increase in the number of new COVID cases. So pockets of increased worsened situations as a result of those variants, even as Europe looks to try and organize and better coordinate once again its internal market, even in the face of the difficulty of allowing people to travel when we're seeing those extremely contagious new variants taking over. Over in Germany, it is now every fifth case of COVID that is put down to that UK variant. So extremely worrying situation in so many countries. Denmark, one glimmer of hope. We're expecting to hear today some more about how the country plans to open up over the next few weeks. But again, Rosemary, it will be on a regional basis, and authorities there have been very clear that where the COVID figures remain bad, the restrictions will remain in place.
Of course. Melissa Bell bringing us the very latest from Paris. Many thanks. Russia's Sputnik V vaccine appears to be a global success with pre-orders from dozens of countries. But Russians themselves aren't nearly as enthusiastic, so health officials are trying to overcome their resistance as they ramp up production. CNN got exclusive access to the country's biggest vaccine production facility, and now Matthew Chance got his first shot.
The site was once a Cold War biological weapons centre. Secret, remote and closed.
So eternally.
But CNN has gained exclusive access to the high-tech facility where Russia now makes Sputnik V. It's controversial but effective COVID-19 vaccine.
The next important part is to get the extra pure, clean and sterile water. And
every step in the large-scale process had to be carefully calibrated, the chief scientist tells me, delaying mass production of Sputnik V, approved in August last year, until now.
And have you already made that step? Are you already now producing millions of vaccines, millions of doses every month?
Yes, we are producing several millions of vaccines every month, and we are hoping soon to get even a higher amount, maybe like 10 or 20 million per month.
With those numbers, Russian officials now say any healthy adult here who wants Sputnik V can have it, opening pop-up clinics like this one in a Moscow mall, encouraging shoppers to get vaccinated, offering a free ice cream with every jab to sweeten the deal. Even the secretive Russian lab that pioneered Sputnik V has opened its doors, offering the vaccine directly, as it were, from the source.
Right, fine. Roll up. OK, I'm rolling up. OK, I'm not that nervous about having the Russian vaccine because, you know, it's had large-scale clinical trials and it's been peer-reviewed in a major journal. And it's been found to be very safe and 91.6% effective, which is very good. Anyway, it's too late now because it's been done. The interesting thing, though, is the fact that I can get a vaccine here in Russia at all, given that I'm not in a vulnerable category.
Fact is, a country with one of the world's highest numbers of COVID-19 infections also has one of its highest vaccine hesitancy rates, fewer than 40% willing to have the jab, according to one recent opinion poll. You'd think Vladimir Putin would step forward to allay public fears. But unlike many other world leaders, the Russian president has yet to take the plunge. Kremlin says it will announce when a presidential vaccination takes place. But in a country that looks to its strongman for the lead, his vaccine hesitancy is doing nothing to bolster confidence.
The packed and labeled vaccine is stored before being distributed to the patient.
And this is how they're distributed. How many doses in this box?
Still, more than 50 countries have now ordered Sputnik V, according to the RDIF, Russia's sovereign wealth fund. Russians may still be shunning their vaccine.
So the same boxes are going to Argentina, Brazil and other countries.
Right. It comes like this wherever it goes in the world.
But global demand for Sputnik V continues to surge. Matthew Chance, CNN Moscow.
Dr. Jorge Rodriguez is a CNN medical analyst and an internal medicine and viral specialist. He joins us now from Los Angeles. Thank you, Doctor, for talking with us and for all that you do.
Thank you.
So more than 44 million Americans have received at least one shot of the COVID-19 vaccine, and top vaccine makers have now confirmed to Congress they are on track to deliver hundreds of millions of promised doses by June and July, meaning supply will soon meet demand. So the next problem is getting those shots in arms quickly and efficiently, and that's not being done right now. What are you seeing, and how can the current system of appointments and vaccinations be improved?
Well, what I'm seeing actually are different cities, different states stepping up to the challenge and creating sites that are voluminous, that are going to be taking care of a lot of people. Also, I'm seeing some mobile units that are being created, especially here in Los Angeles and other large states, that are going to underserved areas to serve people that can't go to the places where the vaccines are being given. So right now, the biggest problem we've had, at least in California and Los Angeles, is supplies. So what I think needs to be done is that people need to start lining up and going. And the infrastructure, especially the communication of it, the internet access of it, needs to be ramped up significantly.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, the FDA is set to authorize the emergency use of the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine within days, and that could be available by next week. AstraZeneca and Novavax are not yet approved. What's holding up that process?
Well, you know what? That's a good question. I really don't know that answer. I know that AstraZeneca has been trying to reassess some of their data, especially since it was shown not to be so effective against the South African variant of this. So I'm not sure why that's being held up, but we know that it is. And I think they're having some problems in sort of convincing people of their efficacy.
Absolutely. And Dr. Vaccine makers also revealed to Congress that they don't yet know how long vaccine protection will last. And they say that's why they're looking at booster shots that may need to be used for years to come to also cover the different variants, of course. How concerned are you that some people may get the virus because the protection from the initial shots has diminished or worn off?
Well, I'm actually not too worried about that, because if you remember, there are tens of thousands of people that received these vaccines and studies back in October, and they're being followed. So they're being followed on a regular basis. I think we'll have at least a couple to 3 month sort of lead-in period. If they start seeing that people's antibodies are waning, boy, then that would be another call to arms that we do have to start giving people boosters sooner than not. For all we know, these vaccines could last a year, 2 years. So I have to remind people that there are plenty of volunteers that are in these studies that are ahead of everybody else that has gotten the vaccination, and they're being studied on a very regular basis.
Yeah, so we'll need those supplies to keep coming, of course, as
Absolutely.
a result of that. And thankfully, we are seeing a decline in deaths, hospitalizations and cases worldwide, in fact. But we're all being warned not to let our guard down just yet. What's your best advice to people right now as they await their vaccine shots?
My advice is exactly that. I mean, you have come this far, right, to the end of the race. This is not the time to become relaxed. And for people that have gotten the vaccine, this is also the time to just be careful. The analogy that I give for those of us that grew up in Florida where we have lots of hurricanes, the winds have stopped. And if you want to look outside, you do so carefully, because you may just be in the eye of the storm and another wave is coming. So you can't let your guards down now. We've come this far.
That's a good analogy. We need to keep our masks on, even double mask, and just keep on marching on. Dr. Jorge Rodriguez, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure as always.